Hello, my name is David Lance, and I am the author of Think Like Jesus, Lead Like Moses, Leadership Lessons from the Wilderness Crucible. You know, as God was leading Moses and the children of Israel out of Egypt, and he got them across the Red Sea, another problem that Moses immediately had to face was the fact that not everybody was an Israelite. There were a lot of people along with the Hebrews who were not part of the children of Israel. They were other foreigners who had become mixed, and the Bible even calls them the rabble. Well, Moses had a problem to deal with because these various groups were calling Israel to sin. You remember the worshiping the golden calf and things of that nature. Well, and another thing that they all had in common, they grumbled a lot. And so because of this, in chapter 11 of Numbers and in chapter 17 of Exodus, God calls upon Moses to select the elders of the people, to gather them around, and then God anoints those elders with a portion of his spirit. And so Moses is willing to allow some of these guys to become similar to him in stature and leadership, and he does not mind sharing his authority with them. And in that way, Moses is able to build an advisory team that both helps him lead the children of Israel and holds him accountable to doing the things that God needs Moses to do as he leads those children of Israel in the wilderness. It sort of reminds me of a scene from the movie Spartacus. You know, Kirk Douglas in the starring role as Spartacus. They've just revolted against the Romans, and Spartacus comes and he sees his other fellow slaves holding matched pairs as these Roman nobles have to fight each other like gladiators. And Spartacus says to them, "What have we become? Romans? We're better than that." And so they talk about what they're going to do, and they decide that they're going to create an army of slaves. They'll free every slave between the city and the sea, and they will basically march right out of Roman territory. And in that process, Spartacus attracts leaders to himself, his captains who later become his generals as they fight the Romans, who are basically committed to the vision that Spartacus has given to them, but also committed to Spartacus. And you remember that scene at the end of the movie when the Romans have defeated the slave army and they call for the man or the body Spartacus. And Spartacus stands up to say, "Here I am." And each one of those slaves stands up and says, "I'm Spartacus." No, I'm Spartacus. They are willing to be crucified on the Appian Way because they are holding true both to their mission and to their leader, Spartacus. Well, as I began to work with building the Christian Coalition, especially after the 1992 election, I knew that it was important to bring a team of advisors together. So I brought all the county leaders together for a day-long meeting that we had, and we had a various agenda of speeches, sharing of how things have been done. We had a meal together, and we had small group discussions. And in that process of getting acquainted with one another, of learning of each other's struggles, and triumphs and the stories that everybody had to share, we formed a bond of friendship and commitment, both to each other and to our cause. And those folks also had a commitment to myself, not only as the head of the Christian Coalition in Indiana, but also to hold me accountable to work to deliver the things that we were trying to do as the Christian Coalition here in the state of Indiana. And so this leads me to identify the third of 10 principles in my book, and that principle is simply this: we will attract lieutenants in whom we can place our trust, and then we will trust them to accomplish the vision that God has given to us. And so that's my thought for you today on this third of 10 principles of godly leadership. Thanks so much, and God bless.